Okay, so a friend of mine made a suggestion for what the title of this movie should have been, and now I can't stop thinking about that. I'm like, duh. He said, considering this is about a machine world and this is a essentially a reimagining of the series or a continuation of the series, it should have been called The Matrix Rebooted. Duh. And welcome to my Safe Gayven. Thank you guys so much for joining me here for another review on the Black Gay Comic Geek channel. Welcome. If this is your first time checking out my videos, thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Michael, Black Gay Comic Geek. I always say the things that I love to talk about in my fantasy has blood, sex, gore, and magic, or any variation of the four. So I like to talk about superheroes. I like to talk about comic books. I like to talk about video games. I like to talk fantasy, sci-fi, and I also like to talk about black representation and queer representation. So if that's something that you are interested in, hopefully you like and subscribe on this video and you become a regular member and viewer here on the Black Gay Comic Geek channel. But whether this is your first or you've been here before plenty of times, again, thank you so much. But if you could do me a favor and please hit that like button, it'll really help with the YouTube algorithm and getting this video and my channel out there. But today we are here to talk about The Matrix Resurrection, part of the Matrix franchise, the franchise that still to this day is greatly influencing like all of sci-fi, fantasy cinema, and just cinema in general. Like The Matrix, when it came out in 1999, really pushed the boundaries of special effects and sci-fi. So did The Matrix Resurrection continue that trend, or should it have stayed in the yesteryear's programming of old? But with that, I need you guys to like, comment, interact, share on this video for the algorithm. So what did you guys, if you've seen The Matrix Resurrection, what did you think about it? What is your favorite of the Matrix movies? When was the first time did you see Matrix in 1999 when it first came out? Like, what was your experience with The Matrix? Hit me up in the comments below. But anyway, let's get into this non-spoiler thoughts of The Matrix. I didn't really see people's like actual review, but I've seen that this movie has been getting a lot of mixed reviews. Some people like really loved it. Some people thought it was okay. Some people thought it was trash. And so I was curious to see where I would fall in my thoughts regarding this movie. And I would say that I don't think the movie was I mean, obviously, if you guys are regular here on the channel, you knew if I had on the robe, I thought the movie would have been absolute garbage. I didn't think it was garbage, but I also didn't love it. But yeah, this movie sees the return of Lana Wachowski, who's directed the first three movies with her sister, Lily Wachowski, but Lily didn't come back to direct this movie. It was just Lana. And the synopsis for this movie reads, to find out if this reality is a physical or mental construct, Mr. Anderson, aka Neo, will have to choose to follow the White Rabbit once more. If he's learned anything, it's that choice, while an illusion, is still the only way out of or into the Matrix. Neo already knows what he has to do, but what he doesn't yet know is that the Matrix is stronger, more secure, and far more dangerous than ever before. And while that synopsis sounds pretty ominous and sounds very interesting, I'm like, that's kind of not what we got for this movie. Like, yeah, I didn't hate this movie, but okay, so with this movie being called Matrix Resurrection, it sees the return of Keanu Reeves as Neo, and it sees the return of Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity. And there's some other characters from the original Matrix series that have returned for this franchise. I'm not going to spoil who has and who hasn't returned because I don't think they released it in the trailers. And so with that, like, this movie does a great job, I think, in being very meta in terms of their analysis for what the Matrix meant and what the Matrix means currently. And they do a lot of references where in this world, Neo, because if you remember from the Matrix Reloaded or whatever the last one was, I think, what was the last one called? Reload? It was the Matrix, Matrix Reloaded, and Matrix Revolutions or something. I don't remember. Matrix 3. But it appeared that Neo died at the end of the movie, even though I don't think he actually died. Because if you saw him get wheeled away, they changed the perspective to his eyesight, and where his eyesight changed, like it still looked like he was still alive. He just was immobile. And so this movie takes place 60 years after the original Matrix trilogy. And so with that, Neo has returned, but the Matrix and the constructs within the Matrix have trapped Neo in this world where he thinks that the Matrix trilogy was a video game that he's created, and he's still in the real world, the world that we know today, that we know as the Matrix. And so he's a very successful video game programmer, but he also suffers from a level of schizophrenia where he can't necessarily tell the difference between if the Matrix was actually a game or if he's just hallucinating. And so because of that, there's a lot of meta references where they talk about redoing the Matrix for a fourth one and coming back, because they even mentioned Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers wants to make more money, and how, you know, franchises and sequels make money and nostalgia and everything like that. There's a lot of references to that. And it's, like I said, it's very meta in how they approach this fourth movie. And in many ways, I feel like it was a commentary for Lana Wachowski herself, because in many ways, I don't even know if she even wanted to make this movie, because there's a line in the movie where Keanu Reeves' character's Neo, because again, he's the programmer for the Matrix games. Somebody says to him like, oh, I know you really thought you would never come back to this franchise and never wanted to come back to this movie, but if you don't make another one, Warner Brothers is going to cancel your contract. And so I'm like, did they say that to Lana Wachowski? Like, so yeah, there was a lot of meta commentary regarding that, and then the world and everything like that. But for this to be the Matrix franchise, you think about again, I mentioned with the Matrix, it revolutionized sci-fi, fantasy, special effects, action choreography. Like, you think about the fights, and granted, a lot of people didn't really like the Matrix 2 and 3 as much as they liked the first Matrix, but something that I'd really, even though I didn't really like it as much, I still think about like the action set pieces in the Matrix, especially the Matrix 2. Like, you think about the moment on the highway where Morpheus and I think Trinity were going against those two like ghost-like creatures that were phasing through objects. Like, that action sequence was fire. Or like the fights between Neo and Agent Smith. And I feel like a lot of the fight choreography in this movie wasn't that good. Like, it was just mostly gunfights, but there were no like hand-to-hand, the awesome kung fu moments that you've gotten and garnered to love in the Matrix franchise. And then also, I don't know, honestly for me, like, this movie really pushed the romance and the love and the eternal love between Neo and Trinity in this movie. And as much as I love them in the original trilogy, I didn't really feel it in this movie. And in many ways, like, it makes sense for Neo to come back, for him to be the one, but I don't know, I kind of feel like bringing Trinity back downplays the sacrifice that she made in the Matrix 3. And it was just like, oh, that's convenient. And then also, there's something that they do with Trinity at the end of the movie where I'm just like, what? How is this even possible? Like, they almost make it, I don't know. I'm not gonna give spoilers, but I'm confused by the end of this movie, and I don't know if we're gonna get another one. They kind of leave the door open for there to be another movie. I kind of hope not, because I feel like the Matrix 3 ended on a great note. Like, if they were gonna continue the Matrix, they should have continued it with a new set of characters. And speaking of the new set of characters, they do introduce new characters. There's a character, and something that I do love, and that I'm not surprised about with Lana Wachowski coming back to direct it. She brought back a lot of the characters and the actors that were part of the Sense8 franchise, which I'm still salty that show got canceled. But there were a lot of actors from Sense8, and like, there was one character played by Brian J. Smith, who was William, I think that was the character's name, the main cop from Sense8, who I want him to play a live-action version of Midnighter in the Midnight and Apollo series from DC. But his character was described as a Neologist, a person that knows everything about Neo. They have a whole religion about Neo. And they didn't really go that much into his character, really any of the side characters. They just introduced them like, hey, this character is Bugs. This character, this is Morpheus 2.0. This is the other character who's a Neologist. This is this person. This is that person. But then we didn't really dive into these characters and dive into this new world as much as I would have wanted to. There was a lot of focus on Neo and Trinity, which I appreciate, because Neo and Trinity are what pushes the franchise and what people love about the franchise. But I feel like if you're gonna try to tell the Matrix Resurrection in this new iteration, like it should have been focused on these new set of characters, and Neo and Trinity should have been the catalyst to get into these new characters. Like I remember hearing rumors way back when Matrix 3 first came out that they did want to continue the franchise eventually at some point, and the little girl Sati, she was going to go on the franchise and become the new one, but that didn't end up happening because, as they mentioned in the Matrix franchise, Neo wasn't the first and only one. There's been other ones before him, and it was assumed that there would be other ones after him as well. And I mean, I get Keanu Reeves is older, but let's not act like John Wick isn't still a thing. But like, for him to come back as the one, he didn't really do anything. Like, he just had his hands out like this the entire movie, which isn't really a spoiler because you see it in the trailer, but using his telekinesis or whatever powers, like, that's essentially all he did in the entire movie. Again, there was no real hand-to-hand. Like, when I think of the Matrix, I think of hand-to-hand fighting and then just special effects. And I didn't really get much of that in this movie. So, I don't know. I'm not going to believe. I feel like, because I don't really know what else to say. But yeah, for me, like I said, I didn't hate the movie, but I would say that the Matrix Resurrection, it broke even, but like barely. It's like a low breaking even for me. So yeah, but I will say one thing I am somewhat disappointed in, because I do remember Lana Wachowski mentioned that the character of Switch from the original Matrix trilogy was supposed to be a trans character, but you know, they say Matrix is a trans allegory, but you know, it's 1999. They were saying that Hollywood isn't ready for that, and then considering that she came back to do this new trilogy, I was hoping that there would be a little bit more queer characters in this new version of Matrix, especially when you got like somebody like a Brian J. Smith, who is an openly gay man, and other characters. Like, there's kind of hints and nods to like when they show up in the Matrix, they look very eccentric and out there, and it has a lot of queer themes in it, but nobody was explicit. Well, I'm not gonna say nobody. There was a character that's hinted at to be queer, but I do wish there was a little bit more explicitly queer characters, especially considering it is directed by a trans woman. So, but, you know, it is what it is. But anyway, that's my thoughts on The Matrix. The question is, again, what did you guys think about The Matrix Resurrection? Like I said, there's a lot of mixed reviews. There's some people that absolutely loved it. Maybe you're one of those people. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you can, hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out with the channel. If this is one of your first time checking out one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.